Hello neighbors, it's Brad here at eTrailer, and this is my 2010 Toyota Sienna. Now, I've used this for a lot of different things. I don't actually own a truck, but this is my workhorse. I've used it not only for when we moved recently and towed trailers there, but also we've gone on multiple vacations, and it's really come in handy to utilize a bunch of different spots of the van and really be able to use this as a work utility vehicle throughout the whole process, or take the family along on vacation. You can add a few things to a van to really maximize the real estate and the usability of it, and potentially you can avoid ever having to get a truck. The original owner of this van put an eTrailer hitch on here, which is a 2-inch and also 4-pole trailer wiring. And the original owner was my dad. He used it to haul his small boat. He also had a small utility trailer that he could load up his golf cart or their side-by-side and get around with no problem. So I didn't have to worry about picking up a hitch, but a hitch is something that really opens up not only towing trailers, but really what you can do with your van. And in fact, on our vacations recently, I used a cargo carrier that just opened up space inside. And many people don't really think of those cargo carriers, but it really opens up. You can get things on the outside of the vehicle and make more space for the people inside. And this one in particular has a tongue weight rating of 350 pounds. So with that being said, I had a 4-bike rack on here, loaded up, and we went camping, did some mountain biking, and it did it with no problem. So instead of having 4 bikes jammed into a van or up on the roof, you can put that bike rack on a hitch. So don't just think of towing. A trailer hitch really just opens up a ton of avenues. Now, when choosing a hitch for your van, there's generally going to be a few different options. And some vans you can get an 1.25-inch receiver tube opening. It's rather small. That's what I've had on my previous car because that's all that was available. But if you have a 2-inch, that's a possibility to put on your van. Highly recommend it. Generally, you're going to have higher weight capacities, and also just it's going to open up to accessories that you can load in here. 2-inch by 2-inch is pretty much the standard. So going with that means when you pick those bike racks, cargo carriers, or ball mounts, you're going to have tons of those options available. Now, if you plan on pulling a trailer, you absolutely need to pick up 4-pole trailer wiring, and that's going to give you your light functions when you plug into the trailer. It'll keep you safe and legal, giving you running lights, turn signals, as well as brake lights. Many vans are prepped for trailer wiring, and it makes it super easy, plug and play. So it's a nice, quick, easy addition, and it's something that I would recommend if you're putting a hitch on. Even if you don't plan on pulling a trailer, it's nice to have in case you need to. Now, if you're planning on towing a trailer with brakes, highly recommend getting a brake controller, and more than likely you're going to need to get a 7-pole regardless, because trailers with brakes will have a 7-pole for that brake function. And it just makes a lot of sense. Generally, towing a heavier trailer isn't really the issue until you go to stop. All that weight's going to want to push the van all over the place. So having brakes on the trailer will bring everything to a nice, slow stop. It's not going to be, pushing the van in that process. So it's really going to just make it a much safer way to tow. But when it comes to brake controllers, there's going to be 2 different options that I would recommend. Your traditional brake controller that you've probably seen in pickup trucks are the knee knockers. So as you get in, your knee is going to hit it. It's going to sit somewhere in the footwell. I don't really think that that's a great option for a van, mostly just because of space. And the way to get around that is going to be a Red Arc Liberty. Red Arc brake controllers are great because of the small footprint. You get all the usability of a brake controller in a small, clean package that looks OEM when it's done. To get that installed, you are going to need to get the ETBC7 kit, which will give you your 7-pole and all the wiring to get your brake output as well as power to the plug and brake controller. Another option, if you don't want to go that extensive, would be a wireless brake controller, which plugs into a 7-pole, but you can get away with a ETBC7L, which will still give you power to that plug, and you can control it from your phone. So it's a little less permanent of an installation, but you still get the functionality of a brake controller on your trailer. Now, obviously, to be able to tow a trailer, you're going to need a ball mount to attach to the coupler. And more than likely, with what you're limited to on the hitch, you're probably only going to be dealing with an 1 7/8" ball or a 2-inch ball, which is a little bit more common for most trailers. Some of your maybe kayak trailers or small utility trailers will be at 1 7/8", but for the most part, a 2-inch will get you pretty far. And choosing a ball mount, it really comes down to if you plan on towing the same trailer over and over, you can get it dialed in to your riser drop necessary, and a fixed ball mount works great. If you're going to be towing a number of different trailers, you can look at adjustable ones as well, that we can really dial in the height and get that trailer perfectly level. But for our case today, we have an etrailer fixed ball mount with a 2-inch ball. And this is a great option because the weight ratings on this do exceed the hitch. So it's going to be rated at a gross trailer weight rating of 7,500 with a tongue weight of 750, which is way higher than our hitch. So just keep in mind that you're limited to the lowest number with all of your components, not only the ball mount, and the hitch, but also you need to check your vehicle's owner's manual to see what the van is capable of, and then you compare all those numbers, take the lowest ones so you're not overloading anything. So we have our teardrop camper here, and if this is something that you would consistently tow with your van, it's definitely within the weight specs, but determining that riser drop with the ball mount is pretty easy to do. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is have your receiver open here and measure from the top of the receiver tube opening to the ground. So we find that we have 11 inches on our van. So headed over to the trailer, we'll measure from the ground to the bottom of the coupler. Now with your trailer nice and level, we'll then measure from the ground to the bottom of our coupler, and ours today comes in right at about 14 3/4. So subtracting the difference of the higher to the lower, you're going to determine the riser drop necessary. So obviously in our case, our trailer hitch is lower than the coupler on our trailer, so we'll need a rise. And doing a little bit of math, we have a rise with 2 3/4, and that's going to get us pretty close to where we want to be. So this is going to be a great option for us to be able to safely tow this down the road. So I got my coupler latched, my safety chains are hooked up, as well as my wiring. Once you do a quick light check, make sure all your tires are good, and you're ready to hit the road. Now I've hooked up to our trailer that I've loaded down with just things we had in the parking lot just to simulate weight. I'm not going to be towing this, but this is a pretty average use of this trailer as far as weight goes, and filling it up to really get that tongue weight to see the squatting that happens on the van. With our scale in place here and loaded up, we're coming in, it's right about 240, 245 in that range. So we're not quite exceeding the limit of our tongue weight on our hitch, but this is pretty traditional of what you'd be using this trailer for. Now, with this loaded up, it's pretty normal to see a van squatted in the rear, and mostly because it's designed for the comfort of passengers, not necessarily towing that much, and that's kind of the same case on a lot of newer trucks. And it's not that big of a deal until you're in a sticky situation, and having sag will make a big difference on a lot of vans because most of them are going to be front-wheel drive. You do have some all-wheel drive versions in there, but all of the power is going to be at the front. So making sure that you have adequate weight back on the front is where suspension enhancement comes in play, and it's going to help with a few different things. Putting that back to a more level load means that your suspension's not going to be sagging and it's not going to wear it out prematurely. It's also going to give you a little bit more steering feel back in the steering wheel, as well as braking, handling, and just make it seem that it's a little more capable feeling while towing. And that's kind of the glory of suspension enhancement, is it works every time, and it's not going to give you any added capacity, but the van is going to feel like that load isn't going to be a struggle for it. Depending on your van type, it's going to determine what kind of suspension enhancements are available. The Sienna had a few different options as far as a jounce bumper replacement. Something from Sumo Springs or Timbren is generally going to be a good option, and just kind of close up the gap where your factory jounce bumpers are just not doing the job. They take a little bit to compress, and all of that means squat, where is a taller jounce bumper is going to allow that to really hit the bottom end and not allow it to squat, but still give you a comfortable ride. I've actually opted for airbags from Airlift, and not the traditional ones that you might think of on a truck. These actually go into the spring, and when you fill those up with pressure, it's just going to get those springs to where they can't fully just squat down. It's going to fill that up, supplementing that suspension, and it really brings it back to a normal feel. Once I put them on my van, there was no looking back, and even without a trailer, they make a huge difference in comfort. Now, the great part about the airbags is the adjustability, be able to put varying different pressures to account for the load. And so right now I have 0 pressure in the bags. I'm going to bump this up to its max, which is 30 in these bags, and we'll see the difference. If you're worried about not having an air compressor at home to fill up the bags or not wanting to have to stop at a gas station to be able to do that, not to worry. I'm using this because I'm at the shop, but traditionally I just have my bike pump in the back, and that's enough to fill these bags up, so I can do that on the fly whenever I need to. Now, on many hitches, you may see that there's 4 different numbers, and the first 2 are going to be your gross trailer weight rating and your tongue weight, which is going to be what you want to adhere to normally. But you'll see larger numbers. Here we have 5,500, and this is weight distribution, or WD. And what a weight distribution hitch will do is attach just like a normal ball mount, but have arms that will tether to the trailer and take tension off of it. So it uses physics to really be able to get the most out of hauling a trailer, and that's a huge difference. So that really opens it up from, if I ever wanted to haul a car hauler with a small car on it, I could do that with a weight distribution hitch. So if you're looking for higher capacities than your standard number, that could be all the difference. A big pro of any of the suspension enhancements is most of them are very easy to install, and you don't need a lift to do that or special tools, and they make a difference every time you drive the vehicle. Something else that you're going to want to maybe consider if you're hauling heavy loads or a camper quite often is going to be a transmission cooler. A lot of vans will have them from the factory, and what that's going to do is just cool down the fluid in the transmission, which prolongs the life. Heat is the enemy of engines, transmissions, or anything mechanical. So adding an extra radiator to cool down those fluids as they kind of come and go through the transmission is going to prolong the life. I found that towing with the van, a lot of times the transmission's hunting around trying to figure out which gear it wants to be in as it goes up inclines, and I do feel the strain on the transmission. So adding that cooler will give you a little bit more peace of mind that that fluid is going to be nice and cool, and your transmission will be extended as far as its life. Now, if you aren't planning on towing a trailer, a lot of what we've talked about so far will still benefit you in other ways. So things like a hitch or suspension enhancement also come into play when you're loading down your van for some of those vacations, maybe some camping. And utilizing the real estate that's already available on your van is a great way to get all of your passengers and their belongings to the trip nice and comfortably. The way we've done that is by putting this large roof box up top. This is a great way to add real estate that you maybe previously didn't have. And a lot of times vans will already be equipped with a rail system, making these super easy. But if yours isn't, not to worry. We have plenty of fit kits available here to be able to get crossbars and any of your rail systems up there. So you can really use this for cargo boxes, platforms, even bike racks to use the roof space that you might have not have had previously. Out back, we have a cargo carrier that goes into our hitch, and this is a great spot for anything that can be exposed to elements or things that, aren't necessarily important to keep dry. It's also come into play before. I've moved a lawnmower, and I didn't want to have it in the back of my van with the clippings all over. So this really comes into play to put anything that you don't want inside of your van, but still be able to take it to your destination. Now, depending on how much you're going to be loading up your van for either towing or just going on vacation, some other things you might want to consider are going to be a locking pin and clip. So if you plan on leaving accessories on the back, or if you're traveling, it's good peace of mind to know that those accessories are going to stay on your vehicle, and that lock is enough deterrent for people not to try to take your accessories. When it comes to towing, some other things that you might want to consider would be some extended tow mirrors, and that's going to give you a wider view of the trailer when making those turns and backing up. And then also any hitch mounted accessory, you can get collars that will tighten down to cut down on rattling, and that's something that's just a little bit, makes for a quieter ride going down the road. A lot of times when you have accessories loaded into the hitch, you are going to hear some clunking as you hit bumps, but you can eliminate that with an anti-rattle bolt. Now, we've covered a lot of information, and it's for a lot of different applications with your minivan, but if any of these products seem like something that you're interested in, use eTrailer's Fit Guide to get the perfect fit for your van. You'll be able to see the installation on products as well as how they're going to interact with your vehicle. We put a lot of effort into making sure we cover specific year, make, models, so that way you can see exactly what it's going to be on yours. Hopefully, all of this information helps you realize the wonderful world of hauling and towing with your minivan.